Welcome along, everybody. This is the start of quite a mega project here in SEGA Master System Lemmings. I am undertaking the endeavour to recreate all of the Sega Genesis levels in the SEGA Master System version of Lemmings. Now, some of them are going to be fairly easy to do, but others are going to require quite a bit of faffing. Now, the first thing you'll see is I've added an easy way to get to the levels. You can scroll between the difficulties and the levels themselves on the level select screen now, so you don't need to remember any passwords or do the cheat. You can just get through it through the menu. Another little quality of life feature that I've added, GigaLem suggested this, is holding down both buttons and then scrolling left and right with the D-pad will now let you scroll through the skills, so you don't need to go to the bottom of the screen all the blooming time. And those of you who play on real hardware, that might be a really useful addition to this version, because the pause button on the Sega Master System is truly awful. Now, for this level, I did have to add a few tiles to the tile set. Fortunately, the brick tile set is one of the ones with a lot of free space, so I'm able to add quite a few different tiles, and we're going to need them for a lot of the brick tile sets. But this one only had a couple of small additions. Those thin pipes that you can see there on the left-hand side of the screen, those were something that we added. And then over on the very far right of the level, that little diagonal line so that Lemmings can walk up and not bonk their heads, that was added as well. I've tried to make all of the tile set additions match in as well as possible with the original tile set that we had here in the Sega Master System version. Some of them look great. There are some others that we'll see, even in the fun category, that don't look that good at all. Now, this first level was a royal pain, and I did initially try something to boost the frame rate because of how terrible it was having all the Lemmings on screen and things like those slicers going, and they ended up breaking everything. So I'm never trying that again. I'm still not an expert with this disassembly. It's still very much an unlabeled mess of rubbish that I am slowly but surely making my way through and trying to make sense of every last detail. I'm probably only about 1% of the way in, knowing everything in that disassembly, but I know the stuff that needs to be known for now. And one of the things I've done in this version is I've actually expanded it to a 1 megabyte ROM. So that means we've got plenty of space for all of the new levels. I didn't want to remove anything when it came to this disassembly, so I made sure that I could make the room to get everything in, and that was an endeavour in and of itself. One of the things I had to do, which was kind of complex, and I didn't expect it to be that complex, was move all of the tile sets out into their own individual banks, because they were stored mostly two in a bank. So that meant that there wasn't the room to expand the tile set up to 255 tiles each. Plus, of course, you've got your black background tile for each level as well. So that is how we get up to 255 tiles in each tile set. One of the things I'm going to try and do after this one, because I can see me doing a lot of hacks in this version of Lemmings, I'm going to try and add custom tile sets in. I never like following tutorials. I never like seeing what other people have done when it comes to the actual coding. So I'm going to try and do it all on my own, because that's the only way I learn. If I follow a tutorial, or if I follow how somebody else has done something, it goes in one ear and out the other. I'm just typing what they've done, and I never ever learn anything, so I try and do everything as completely naturally as possible. It takes longer, but it sure as heck goes in then, and that's all that matters. That is the first level done and dusted. We can move on to our next replacement level. This is Tea Time in the Ball Country, and this is another fairly simple level. 10 of everything on this one, including the release rate. You can see there, I managed to get some one-way walls in, and they look absolutely hideous on this version, unfortunately. And apologies for the audio track going a little bit wonky here. That's a recording glitch, not an error with the ROM or the ROM hack itself. It's just OBS throwing a little bit of a hissy fit, so that's something we may have to deal with for the first half or so of these levels. I have now fixed it in post for the next set of recordings, but there's nothing I could do to rescue the audio in these ones. Now, those one-way walls were an absolute bloody nightmare to do. I have no idea why they decided to code them in the way they did, but the one-way walls caused all sorts of issues. At one point I had lemmings walking on water, I had lemmings floating through solid tiles, and it turns out that one-way walls are coded in a little bit of a different way to the way I thought they would. It could just be because I ripped it from the disassembly. So I've converted that to a lookup table so that all of the RAM addresses actually match now, regardless of how many one-way walls there are in any particular tile set. And that is going to be fairly useful going forwards, especially if we decide to add extra tiles to the tile sets, or even extra tile sets in general. Now, one of the things that I had to do on this one as well was create those balls that could be stacked on top of each other. For some reason, the music decided to go completely haywire on this particular level. I have changed the way it's recording, and it's absolutely horrific, isn't it? I can only apologise for the state of the audio there. I wish there was something I could do while recording to monitor the audio like that, but it sounded fine through my headphones. So I can only imagine it's OBS's fancy audio capture way to just capture one audio source from one program, having a little bit of a hissy fit, but I've changed it so it's just recording desktop audio because I don't listen to anything else anyway when I record these particular level endeavours. That was level number 2, we're on to level number 3 now. Take a little rest. This is our first dirt style level, and I have to say, I really do not like playing with the dirt style. I am so bad at making it look good. Even now, looking at this on screen, there are so many things I would do differently. I think the dirt style is absolutely the most difficult style to design with, especially when it comes to the SEGA Master System version. The dirt style is what actually inspired me to create my own level editor so I could have more than just a few brushes, unlike what Mappy does, where you only get, I think it's about 10 brushes. So now I've got unlimited brushes, and goodness me, it makes creating the dirt style levels significantly easier than it was before. If you're eagle-eyed, you may be able to spot exactly where certain shapes come from. They're stolen from other levels. So that little bit of a lump there that the builder is building towards, I believe that came from the island of the Wicker people. And then the flat bit that we're going to bash through to in a moment is just the same flat bit as Just Dig. So that's how I've been building these levels, because if I did it completely from scratch, I would stand absolutely no chance of getting any of the levels done. So, especially when it comes to the dirt, just nick bits from other levels and put them together, and they'll vaguely look like what you're going for. I've taken quite a few creative liberties, actually, in the course of these levels, because I wanted to try and do what the original devs of the Master System version did. Have some levels that are one-to-one recreations, and have other levels where they've added their own little flair, their own little spin on the levels, change the solutions slightly, and hopefully not make them too messed up or too boring. This one, though, really fun to play, I've got to say. For a fun early level, I really like it. They could have added a bear trap in there, but they didn't, to make it even nicer for us. And I just think it's one of the nicest looking dirt levels, at least in the Genesis version, that there is. Plus, we've got She'll Be Coming Around to the Mountain playing. That's always going to be a bonus for me. I love this track. It's one of my favourites in all of the Master System version. You may have noticed, by the way, the correct music track is playing, corresponding to their position in the Genesis Mega Drive version. One of the other things I've done for custom levels only, not for the original 120 levels, is there is now the option to select between 1 and 17 for the music tracks, so that you can have a little bit of variety and you can mix things up a little bit. I am planning on releasing the entire code once I am convinced that it's not a complete buggy shambles, because I know what's going to happen. I'll release it and then a game-breaking bug will be found, just like what I found at the beginning of this recording session, where there was something truly horrific going on with the clock and the animated sprites. But that is that level all complete. We're on to level 5, Catch More Floaters. This one is kind of like a Poor Wee Creatures light, isn't it? 100% to be saved. There's only 10 lemmings. It's 10 of your climbers and floaters, and then 1 of everything else. Now, this level was really tough, actually, to recreate in a faithful way to how the Genesis level is solved. But I was able to get around it due to the nature of how this tile set works. In fact, how all the tile sets work. There are two different types of black tile on this screen. You've got the black tile which isn't a solid, that's the air that you can walk through, and then you've also got a black tile that is a solid. So you can see there, that lemming is walking on air, when actually it's walking on a solid black pixel as opposed to a non-solid black pixel. And we can take full advantage of that and have the intended solution, because if we just dug from the very bottom, the lemming would never get through all the way through that little bit of a spider web there. So that's how we get through that, and that is how we make this level the exact same solution. I'm not a big fan of overly bashy levels though, so this one is a little bit annoying to me. I really do not like waiting around for how slow the bashers are in the Master System version. I think, and don't quote me on this, but I do think that they are one of the slowest bashers in all of the different ports. And without a speed up button, it really does get very slow indeed. And then mining, it's even slower, isn't it? But that miner is the final part of the solution for this level. We just let him get through roughly about halfway or so, and then we can go and set all of the other lemmings to be climbers. And the reason I release rate 90 at the beginning of this level is so that we can have them all facing in one direction, so we're not going to get any of those pesky lemmings climbing over to the left and forcing me to do a re-record of this already fairly long level. And the end of this solution is just as simple as pressing the climber button 9 times. We get the final lemming out through, or should I say the first lemming out through those very bright cubes there. And he is the first into the goal. One thing I noticed actually is, even though the animation for the flame torches on the exit are orange in this particular version, if you have the unanimated version, they're actually the green that you see in the other versions, so that's something I'll try and fix in a later update, get them adjusted to the correct palette, because I think that'd be nice. It'd be a nice little bit of cohesion with the other versions of Lemmings. But that is a level 3 all done and dusted, I think, or is that level 4? That was level 4, goodness me. Now we are on to level 5, Lemmings in the Attic. I despise this level. You can see I had to take some creative liberties on the right-hand side. I tried for about 3 days to get a working electric trap, but it's beyond my capabilities at the moment, and water will do just the same. We don't have any kind of builders in the skill set there, so that means we don't have any way to take advantage of the build on water glitch that is available in this level. Now, I do think, in retrospect, I overcomplicated this level quite a bit. Instead of doing what I did there, which was upping the release rate to 99 at a specific time, I think if I'd have changed the release rate for Lemming number 2, then I might have been able to get away with having a lower release rate and time the Lemmings perfectly. For an easy level in the fun category, I think this one is particularly tricky. I'm not quite sure why the Genesis developers thought this was suited too easy, but that's what they thought. They thought it was a fun level, and so that is where it goes. I think this is Fun 21 in the original Genesis version. And then adjusting the release rate did end up working in the end. I decided against bashing with Lemming number 1 there because I thought the crowd is going to catch up fairly quickly. So we bash with Lemming number 2 so that Lemming number 1 becomes part of the crowd. And then we're waiting for that crowd to be mostly turned left so that we can try and get that little bit of a gap for our lemming to start bashing through. We want all the lemmings possible to be facing left so that then we can bash through this final diagonal section without worrying about any lemmings climbing over. We just about had a big enough gap. I think if we were a pixel or two closer together there, then it would have been a fail on this level and we would have had to take a reset, because of course they make this 100% to be saved. The Genesis developers love those 100% to be saved levels. I do as well when I create my own, but in the fun category it's a little bit mean. And once again we had the audio issues with the audio track here from the game. I really don't know what caused it, but like I mentioned earlier, I've changed the way I'm capturing the input audio, so we shouldn't have that for the Tricky Taxing and Mayhem, as well as Present and Sunsoft levels. Now there are 100 levels in total that I've got to recreate. I've done about 30 of them so far. The only level I'm not recreating at the moment is Sunsoft Special, because I really do not have the brain capacity to create the custom tile set for that level. Now this is the penultimate replacement level in Fun. This is under construction, and again I've taken quite a few creative liberties here. I don't actually know the intended solution on the Genesis for this level, but I do kind of like the way I've done it in the solution for the Master System version. Definitely a tricky old level as well, because you don't really have that many builders, and because I don't have a lot of room in either of the sand tile sets, I had to really play with what they gave us in terms of these bridges. They're all that same one angle. We don't have any really curvy bridges, and that does make this level a little bit trickier than it probably ought to be, but it is still absolutely solvable. Part of the reason why I do the solutions in the videos is to show that I'm not soft locking anybody, and that I am actually testing the levels before release, because I know how frustrating it is. You play a ROM hack and somebody's made some insanely difficult nonsense levels, or nonsense battles if you're playing a Pokemon ROM hack, and they haven't tested it and they release it to the public, and then people are like, no, we can't get through this. What the hell are you playing at? And I don't want to be one of those people, because I know just how bloody annoying it is, because I've been in that situation far too many times myself. Now, this level was really quite frustrating to make. Out of all the levels we've seen so far, this level was the worst to make, and I think it's just because there isn't that much I can do with this tile set. And then also, to be a little bit mean to myself and to all of you, I set the splat distance incredibly low on this level, so that you can't cheese things, like you can't drop between that left-hand bridge that we built that's just gone off screen and the sill at the bottom. Because to me, that sill would be a hard surface, so it makes sense that the Lemmings will go splat a little bit sooner than they would if they were on something a little bit softer, like the wooden bridges. That's what I assume they're made out of anyway. There is that mystery, actually, in all of Lemmings as to what materials some of the more interesting tile sets are made out of. Obviously, the dirt is made out of dirt, but the rest could be made out of anything. What are the bricks made out of? What are the pillars made out of? What are the tiles made out of? And there is the age-old question with the SEGA Master System version. Is the SEGA tile set a kitchen tile set or a bathroom tile set? I've asked a bunch of people who haven't played the game before, and it's kind of 50-50. Some people think it's a kitchen, other people think it's a bathroom. I'm very much team bathroom myself. The plug is what sells it to me, but you never know what on earth they were thinking, really, because it's 30 years removed from when they made the game, and I'm sure they don't remember their logic for adding a tile set made of literal tiles. Maybe they just liked the pun. It's something that we will never ever know, unless you can get in touch with them, and if you can, let me know, because it's been playing on my mind for the last 30 odd years. Because I've been playing this game pretty much since release. It was my grand's game initially. She would spend hours trying to 100% solve as many levels as possible, and then when she passed away, I kind of took up the torch from her, so to speak, and try to get even more 100% solutions with tech that wasn't known in the pre-internet days. Now, I did do a save state here. You can hear the little click there, because quite honestly, I didn't want to repeat all that building, and it's a crapshoot as to whether I'm going to get the basher going the right way, and it took about 5 attempts to get the correct basher. You can hear the audio's gone funny because I save stated there, so I'm wondering actually if anytime there's a little bit of lag, That is what's causing the audio issues, but it's fine. We don't need to worry about it from the next video onwards. And I was very glad as well that the Lemmings hooked on to the bridge there. I was a little bit concerned that that little bit of a black gap would mean they'd all start to try and have a little swim, and we'd end up having to do a redo on this level. It didn't happen in the end though, so I can only have to do this level about 8 times to get a working solution. This one was the one with the most attempts. The level before, the Bashy level, I've forgotten its name already. I'm terrible with names. That one was about 5 attempts. This one was 6 attempts with a save state. But we are through, and we are on to the final level in the fun category already. The final level that we had to replace was Dark Dawn. Now this is level 29, and this is an infinitely better level than the level it's replaced, because the level it replaced is Waralora Lemmings, and that level is absolute garbage. This one though, really fun. We had to reverse the direction of the flamethrower there, because it's only a right-hand facing flamethrower in the SEGA Master System version. And I did take a few liberties with the decoration, using more of the bricks as opposed to the cloudy looking blocks, because it's far, far cleaner on the Master System version to use those bricks. And it just means that we don't have any shenanigans with the Lemmings hitting things and getting collisions where we don't want collisions in the first place. And this one is a really, really quick level as well. Just going to bash through that pillar, start building over, and then we are almost done. And because we dug down into the chain, we don't need to worry about any kind of nonsense releasing the other Lemmings. We can just dig out once again. Doesn't matter which way they're facing, and the level will be over. Now, I really, really would appreciate your feedback as to the levels and how I've done them so far. If you want to see more faithful recreations, do let me know, and I can try doing that. Or if you like the little bit of variety that you see with the changed up levels, especially on the fire tile set, then I will continue doing it in my own personal way to try and make them ever so slightly different while still functionally being almost identical to their Genesis counterparts. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun doing this first set of levels. I do have most, if not all, of the tricky levels done as well, so I'll get a video done for that fairly soon as well. And I'm going to split these into the categories. But with that, we are done. So I'll say thank you for watching, and I'll catch you very, very soon.